I never thought I'd be the type of person to snoop through my husband's office. Yet here I was, hands trembling as I held a letter that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my life with Grant. My name is Lila, and until today, I believed I had the kind of marriage other people envied. 15 years together, a beautiful adopted daughter, and a life that looked perfect on paper. But paper, as I was learning, could hide devastating secrets. I hadn't meant to find it. I was just looking for our daughter Avery's immunization records for her school registration when I knocked over a stack of Grant's files. As I gathered the scattered papers, an unopened envelope caught my eye. The return address was from Meridian Investment Partners, dated 3 months ago. "What are you doing in here?" Grant's voice made me jump. He stood in the doorway of his home office, his usually pristine appearance slightly disheveled. His tie was loose, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "I needed Avery's records," I said, still clutching the letter. "Grant, what's this about a margin call for $2 million? His face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. "You had no right to read my private correspondence." "Private correspondence? We're married. Since when do we keep secrets about money?" My voice cracked. $2 million, Grant. That's not just some small investment gone wrong. He crossed the room in 3 quick strides and snatched the letter from my hands. "It's being handled. This is exactly why I didn't tell you. You're overreacting." "Overreacting? Our daughter's college fund is tied to your investment accounts. Is that gone too?" Grant's silence told me everything I needed to know. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. "Does your mother know about this?" His laugh was bitter. "Mother? Of course not. And she's not going to know. Neither is anyone else." He stepped closer, his cologne suddenly suffocating. "This stays between us, Lila. I mean it." I backed away, my hip bumping his desk. "Or what? Don't be dramatic. I'm protecting our family. Everything I've done has been for us, for Avery." The mention of our daughter sparked something in me. "Don't you dare use her as an excuse. You gambled away her future." "Keep your voice down," he hissed. "She'll hear you." As if on cue, Avery's small voice called from downstairs. "Mom? Dad? Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, sweetheart," Grant called back, his voice transforming into the warm, caring father I thought I knew. He turned back to me, his eyes cold. "We'll discuss this later. I have a meeting." He straightened his tie and walked out, leaving me alone with the aftermath of what I'd discovered. My phone buzzed, a text from Theo, my colleague at the social services office. "Still on for lunch?" I stared at the message, my mind racing. Theo had always been perceptive, warning me months ago that something seemed off with Grant. I defended my husband then, convinced Theo was seeing problems that didn't exist. Now I wondered what else I'd been blind to. I heard Grant's car start in the driveway, then the sound of tires on gravel. Through the office window, I watched him drive away, probably headed to another mysterious meeting. But instead of the usual worry about his increasing absences, I felt something else stirring: determination. Opening his laptop, I hesitated for just a moment before typing in his password. After 15 years of marriage, I knew all his codes, all his habits. Or, at least, I thought I did. As the screen came to life, I realized I was crossing a line, but Grant had crossed it first. "Mom," Avery called again. "Can you help me with my science project?" "Coming, sweetie," I called back, but my eyes were fixed on a folder labeled Phoenix Initiative. My cursor hovered over it, my heart pounding. Whatever secrets Grant was keeping, whatever he'd done with our money, I was going to find out. Not just for me, but for Avery. She deserved better than a life built on lies. I clicked the folder. The Phoenix Initiative folder was empty. Of course it was. Grant had always been meticulous about covering his tracks, but this time, he'd slipped up with that letter. I spent the next hour combing through his desk drawers until my fingers brushed against something taped underneath. A burner phone. "Lila, darling, where are you hiding?" My mother-in-law's voice sent me scrambling to shove everything back in place. Miriam's heels clicked against the hardwood floors, getting closer. I barely had time to slip the phone into my pocket before she appeared in the doorway, perfectly coiffed as always. "What are you doing in Grant's office?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. It never did when she looked at me. Just organizing some paperwork, I said, gesturing to the scattered files. You're here early for dinner. Oh, Grant called. He said you were upset about something, so I thought I'd come help smooth things over. She perched herself on the edge of Grant's desk. He works so hard for this family, Lila. Sometimes I worry you don't appreciate that. The burner phone felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. Did he tell you about the $2 million he lost? Miriam's smile flickered. I'm sure you're exaggerating. Grant knows what he's doing. Does he? I pulled out the letter. Because this says otherwise. She snatched it, her perfectly manicured nails crinkling the paper as she read. For a moment, her mask slipped, showing genuine shock. Then it was gone. Well, she said, folding the letter carefully, all successful men take risks. That's how they build empires. With other people's money? Don't be crude, Lila. This is exactly why Grant doesn't discuss business with you. You're too emotional. The front door opened, and Avery's voice rang out. Grant, you're here. Miriam's face transformed into genuine warmth as she hurried to greet her granddaughter. I used the moment to slip into the bathroom, pulling out the burner phone with shaking hands. The call log showed dozens of conversations with someone listed only as PI. Mom, Avery called up. Can we have pizza for dinner? Ask your grandmother, sweetie. I'll be down in a minute. I quickly photographed the call log with my own phone, then started checking messages. Most were deleted, but one caught my eye. Meeting confirmed. Bring the rest of the documents. No more excuses. The timestamp was from yesterday. Lila. Miriam's voice carried an edge of command. Come help me with dinner. I returned the burner phone to its hiding place and headed downstairs, finding Miriam already taking charge of my kitchen. Avery sat at the counter, watching her grandmother pull ingredients from the fridge. Pizza's not healthy, Miriam was saying. I'm making your father's favorite casserole. But Mom promised. It's fine, Avery, I interrupted, catching my daughter's disappointed look. We can have pizza another night. Miriam smiled triumphantly. See? Your mother can be reasonable when she tries. My phone buzzed, a text from Theo. You okay? You missed lunch. Before I could respond, Grant walked in. He kissed Avery's head, then his mother's cheek, before turning to me with a practiced smile. Mother, thank you for coming. I hope you talked some sense into my wife. We were just discussing how hard you work, Miriam said, shooting me a warning look. I felt the weight of their expectations, their assumptions about my role in this family. The burner phone's messages burned in my mind. Whatever Grant was involved in, it was bigger than just lost investments. Actually, I said, meeting Grant's gaze, your mother and I were discussing the Phoenix Initiative. The casserole dish slipped from Grant's hands, shattering on the floor. Avery jumped, and Miriam gasped, but I kept my eyes on my husband's face. For just a second, real fear flashed across it. Avery, sweetheart, he said, his voice tight. Why don't you go upstairs and start your homework? But dinner. Now, please. As our daughter trudged upstairs, Grant turned to me, all pretense gone from his expression. Where did you hear that name? I smiled, channeling Miriam's perfect mask. Maybe we should discuss this after dinner. As a family. The game was changing, and for once, I had the upper hand. I just hoped I was ready for whatever came next. I followed Grant's silver Mercedes through downtown, keeping 3 cars between us. After that tense dinner 2 nights ago, he'd grown more secretive, but also sloppier. He hadn't noticed me watching him punch in the code for a new burner phone, or realized I'd installed a tracking app on his regular cell for emergencies. The Mercedes pulled into the parking lot of the St. Regis Hotel. Of course, somewhere expensive and discreet. I parked across the street, watching Grant check his reflection in the lobby's glass doors before heading inside. My phone buzzed. Theo, you sure about this? I can call in an anonymous tip instead. I texted back, I need to see for myself. The hotel's air conditioning hit me like a wall as I entered. Grant's voice drifted from the bar, that familiar laugh he used when charming clients. I slipped into a booth, hidden behind a large potted plant, and finally saw who he was meeting. She was younger than me, maybe early 20s, with perfectly styled dark hair and an expensive suit. But it was her expression that caught my attention, not flirtatious, but worried. She kept glancing around nervously. "The investors are getting impatient, Grant," she said, her voice barely carrying to my hiding spot. "They want their money back." "Patricia, relax. The Phoenix Initiative is still viable. We just need more time." "Time?" She laughed bitterly. "The SEC is asking questions. If they trace those transfers." "They won't." Grant reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Trust me, I've handled everything." "Like you handled the margin call?" Patricia stood up, gathering her papers. "I'm not going down for this. You have until Friday to make it right." She hurried past my booth without noticing me, leaving Grant alone with his whiskey. I waited, watching him make 3 separate phone calls, his movements becoming increasingly agitated. Finally, he headed for the elevator. I should have left then. Should have gone home to Avery, who was probably wondering why both her parents were working late again. Instead, I followed him. The elevator stopped on the 7th floor. I waited 30 seconds before following, my heart pounding as I crept down the hallway. Voices leaked from room 714, Grant's and another woman's, but not Patricia's. "It's all falling apart," Grant was saying. "I need more time." "Time isn't the problem, darling." The voice was familiar. Too familiar. "Money is. And I know just how to get it." I pressed closer to the door, my blood running cold as I recognized Miriam's voice. "Mother, no. The house is in both our names. Lila would have to sign off. Then make her sign. You've managed her this long, haven't you? Unless." Miriam paused. "Has she found something?" "She mentioned Phoenix Initiative at dinner." "I don't know how." "Then we have no choice. I'll make the calls tonight. By morning, every cent in your joint accounts will be gone. We'll tell her it was hackers or market volatility. She's naive enough to believe it." "And Avery's college fund?" "Collateral damage." "Really, Grant, you're too sentimental. That child isn't even your real." I must have made a sound, because the voices suddenly stopped. Footsteps approached the door. I ran, not caring about the noise, making it to the stairwell just as the door opened. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my mind racing faster than my feet. They were planning to steal everything. Not just my money, but Avery's future. And Miriam's comment about Avery not being real, as if adoption made our daughter somehow less worthy of protection. In the parking lot, I sat in my car, hands shaking as I pulled out my phone. The recording app was still running, having caught every word. I had evidence now, not just suspicions. But evidence of what? How deep did this Phoenix Initiative go? My phone buzzed with a text from Grant. "Working late. Don't wait up." Another text followed, this one from an unknown number. "Back off, or your daughter loses everything." P.I. They were threatening Avery now. Fine. If they wanted to play hardball, I could play too. I started my car, but instead of heading home, I drove toward the one person I knew could help me understand what I'd stumbled into. Theo had connections in the SEC. It was time to use them. Theo's apartment was exactly what you'd expect from a career social worker, cramped, cluttered, and filled with case files. He listened without interrupting as I played the hotel recording, his expression growing darker with each word. "This isn't just fraud anymore," he said, pulling out his laptop. "The Phoenix Initiative, I've heard whispers about it at the SEC. They think it's connected to something bigger." "Bigger than stealing $2 million? Try 20 million. He turned the screen toward me. "Your husband's company isn't just losing money, they're laundering it. And that woman, Patricia? She was found dead in her apartment an hour ago." The room seemed to tilt. What? Apparent suicide, but Theo's phone buzzed. He checked it, then cursed. "Your accounts, check them now." My banking app showed all zeros. Every account, emptied. Even Avery's college fund, just like they'd planned. My hands started shaking. "I have to get home." "Avery is at your neighbor's house, remember? Tuesday night dance class." Theo grabbed his keys. "I'm coming with you." "No, I need you to make those SEC calls." Find out what else Grant's involved in. I stood up, steadying myself. I can handle my husband, Lila. Theo caught my arm. Grant isn't just your husband anymore. He's a suspect in a federal investigation. And now possibly murder. My phone lit up with Grant's face. I answered on speaker. Where are you? His voice was too calm. Mother's trying to reach you. I'm handling a work emergency. Is everything okay? Oh, everything's fine. Except someone accessed my private files today. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I met Theo's eyes. No, why would I? Interesting. Because Avery mentioned seeing you follow my car earlier. My blood ran cold. Is she okay? She's fine. Mother picked her up early from dance. We're all having a lovely dinner. You should join us. The threat was clear. Come home, or you won't see your daughter. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Perfect. Oh, and Lila? Leave your phone here. Family dinner should be private, don't you think? The line went dead. You can't go, Theo said. Let me call and back up. They have my daughter. I pulled out my phone, quickly forwarding the recording and account screenshots to his email. If I don't show up alone, they'll disappear with her. You know they will. Then, what's your plan? I opened my purse, showing him Grant's burner phone. They think they're the only ones who can play dirty. Time to prove them wrong. Theo grabbed a business card from his desk. My friend at the SEC. Call her the moment you're safe. The drive home felt surreal. Our house glowed with warm light, looking like the perfect family home we'd pretended to be. Through the dining room window, I could see them. Grant at the head of the table, Miriam beside him, and Avery, my beautiful daughter, pushing food around her plate. My phone buzzed one last time, an email notification. Theo had found something about Phoenix Initiative. I forwarded it without reading it, then deleted everything. Whatever happened next, I needed evidence somewhere safe. Taking a deep breath, I walked to my front door. Before I could reach for my keys, it swung open. Grant stood there, smiling that perfect smile that used to make me feel safe. Welcome home, darling. Mother made your favorite lasagna. Did she? I stepped inside, my heart racing as the door closed behind me. That's so thoughtful. Isn't it? His hand gripped my arm, steering me toward the dining room. Family should always come first. Don't you agree? I caught Avery's eye as we entered. She looked scared, but trying to hide it, just like her mother. Absolutely, I said, taking my seat. Family is everything. Miriam raised her wine glass. To family. I raised mine too, watching the red liquid catch the light. Somewhere in the city, Theo was making calls. Evidence was building. All I had to do was keep my family safe for one more night. To family, I echoed and took a sip. The manila envelope sat heavy in my lap as I waited in Grant's office parking lot. Inside were divorce papers, custody agreements, and printouts of every damning email Theo's SEC contact had sent me. It had been 3 days since that horrible family dinner, 3 days of playing the dutiful wife while gathering evidence. Grant's Mercedes pulled into his reserved spot. Showtime. We need to talk, I said, stepping out of my car. He didn't look surprised to see me. Let me guess, another conversation about trust? About Patricia Martinez's suicide, actually. His step faltered. Just slightly, but enough. I read about that. Tragic. Interesting timing, though. Right after she threatened to expose Phoenix Initiative. I followed him into the building. Did Mother help with that too? He jabbed the elevator button harder than necessary. Careful, Lila. You're starting to sound paranoid. The elevator doors closed, trapping us together. I pulled out the papers. I want full custody of Avery. Excuse me? Sign these, and I won't send copies to the SEC. His laugh was cold. You're bluffing. Like Patricia was bluffing? The elevator stopped at his floor. I wonder if she left a note. Grant grabbed my arm, dragging me into his office. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Actually, I do. I broke free, dropping the envelope on his desk. 20 million in laundered money. Shell companies. And now a dead whistleblower. You've been talking to Theodore Ramirez. He sat behind his desk, suddenly calm. Did he tell you what happened to his last informant? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Avery's safely picked up from school. Where is she? My voice shook. With mother, enjoying grandmother-granddaughter time. Grant opened the envelope, scanning the papers. You know, I always admired your dedication to lost causes. It's what makes you such a good social worker. She's my daughter. Is she? He pulled out his phone, showing me a video call with Miriam. Avery sat beside her, doing homework. Legal adoption is such a complex process. So much paperwork. Sometimes things get misplaced. The room spun. What did you do? Nothing yet. Sign this. He pushed a different document across the desk. It transfers your rights to the house and joint accounts to me. In exchange, certain adoption papers stay exactly where they belong. You're blackmailing me with our daughter? I'm protecting our family, like always. His smile was gentle, reasonable. Think about Avery. She needs stability, doesn't she? A proper home? My phone buzzed again, Theo. SEC moving in tomorrow. Get out now. Tick-tock, darling. Grant held out a pen. What's it going to be? I thought about Avery's face at dinner 3 nights ago. The fear in her eyes. The way she watched Grant and Miriam, learning how to navigate their manipulation. Learning to become them. You're right, I said, taking the pen. Avery needs stability. Relief flickered across his face as I began to sign. Then his phone rang. What? His face darkened. When? No, keep her there. I'm coming. He stood abruptly. We'll finish this later. Problem. Nothing I can't handle. He straightened his tie. Don't leave this office. The moment he was gone, I grabbed his laptop. His password was still the same, Avery's birthday. Amateur. Within minutes, I found what I needed. Emails about Phoenix Initiative, transfer records, and something unexpected, messages about Patricia's accident. I forwarded everything to Theo, then pulled out my second phone, the one Grant didn't know about. Is she safe? Yes, Theo replied. Got her out during lunch. She's with my sister. Footsteps approached. I quickly closed the laptop as Grant burst back in, his face livid. Where is she? Where's who? I stood, backing toward the door. Your mother? Patricia's ghost? Our daughter? You think this is a game? He advanced on me. You have no idea what these people are capable of. No, I said, holding up my phone, showing him the video I'd just sent to the SEC. But they're about to find out what I'm capable of. The sound of sirens filled the air outside. Grant's face went pale as he realized I hadn't been signing away my rights. I'd been signing his confession. The house looked different in the harsh morning light, all its perfect edges sharp and threatening. 2 police cars still sat outside, their lights off but their presence a warning. Grant had been arrested yesterday, but Miriam was still inside, and I needed to get Avery's things. You don't have to do this alone, Theo said from the driver's seat. Yes, I do. I unbuckled my seatbelt. Stay with Avery. She needs consistency right now. The front door opened before I could reach it. Miriam stood there, immaculate as always, but something had changed in her eyes. Come to gloat, she asked. I came for Avery's belongings. She stepped aside, watching me enter like a hawk studying prey. The house smelled of bleach, Miriam's stress-cleaning habit in full force. You've destroyed this family, she said, following me upstairs. Was that your plan all along? Worm your way in, then tear everything down. I pushed open Avery's door, fighting back nausea at the sight of her empty bed. You and Grant did that yourselves. We gave you everything. A home, a family, a child you couldn't have on your own. My hands shook as I packed Avery's favorite stuffed animals. You gave me lies. Grant's under investigation for murder, and you're probably next. Is that what you think? Miriam's laugh was brittle. The police just left. Apparently, all the evidence on Grant's computer was corrupted. Such a shame. I froze. What? And those adoption papers you were so worried about? They're perfectly legal now. Amazing what good lawyers can accomplish overnight. The room spun. Everything I'd gathered, all the evidence. Don't look so devastated, Miriam said. Grant will be out by evening. The Phoenix Initiative has very powerful friends. You're lying. Check your phone. A news alert lit up my screen. Key evidence in financial fraud case corrupted. Suspect released pending investigation. No, I whispered. Oh, yes. Miriam picked up one of Avery's drawings from her desk. You know what's interesting about phoenix birds? They always rise from the ashes. Unlike social workers who make enemies of the wrong people. My phone buzzed again, Theo. Something's wrong. Police at the house. They have questions about your involvement. What did you do? I demanded. Me? Nothing. But it seems someone used your credentials to access confidential financial records. And poor Patricia's medical history. Miriam's smile was venomous. Grant may have been sloppy, but I've been playing this game longer than you've been alive. Heavy footsteps echoed downstairs. Male voices called out, official and demanding. That'll be the detectives, Miriam said. They have some concerns about your relationship with Theodore Ramirez. All those late-night meetings, secret phone calls. What would child services say about such unstable behavior from an adoptive mother? The room closed in around me. Everything I'd done to protect Avery was being twisted, used against me. You can't. I can do anything I want. Miriam stepped closer. But I'm giving you a choice.
Leave now.
Walk away from Avery, from all of this. Start fresh somewhere far away. Or stay and fight. Watch them tear apart your life, your career, your reputation. Watch Avery learn what it means to have a mother who chose revenge over family. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs. Tick-tock, Miriam whispered. What's it going to be? I looked at Avery's room, her books, her toys, the life we'd built. Then at the window, with its convenient trellis leading down to the garden. The same one I'd caught Grant using during his late-night meetings. You're right about one thing, I said, moving toward the window. A phoenix does rise from the ashes. Running away then? How disappointing. I turned back, meeting her triumphant gaze.
No.
I'm going to burn everything down first. The door burst open as I swung out onto the trellis. Let them chase me. Let them think they'd won. Because Miriam had forgotten something crucial about phoenix birds. When they rise from the ashes, they bring the fire with them. The motel room's flickering light made the documents spread across the bed look like evidence from a crime scene. In a way, they were. 3 days of hiding, calling in favors, and piecing together what Miriam thought she destroyed had led to this moment. My burner phone buzzed. It's done, Theo texted. FBI has the files. You sure about this? Before I could respond, someone knocked. Through the peephole, I saw Miriam, alone and looking less polished than usual. I know you're in there, she called. We need to talk. I opened the door, but blocked the entrance. How did you find me?
Please.
You used your old student ID to check in. Amateur move. She held up her hands. I'm alone. Grant doesn't know I'm here. Why should I believe you? Because the FBI just raided our house. Again. This time with evidence that wasn't conveniently corrupted. Her voice cracked. What did you do? I let her in, watching her take in the wall of evidence I'd constructed, photos, bank statements, and most importantly, Patricia's real suicide note. You were sloppy too, I said. Keeping trophies of your victories? Those files in your personal safe told quite a story. You broke into my house?
No.
Your housekeeper did. Amazing what people will share when they discover their pension was part of the money you stole. Miriam sank into the room's single chair. Where's Grant? Probably being arrested again. This time with evidence even Phoenix Initiative's lawyers can't make disappear. You don't understand what you've done. She looked older suddenly, vulnerable. These people, they'll come after all of us now. Even Avery. No, they won't. I pulled out my final piece of evidence, a USB drive. Because I have everything. Every name, every transaction, every crime. If anything happens to us, it goes public. You're bluffing. Try me. I sat on the bed's edge. You taught me well, Miriam. About family, about protection, about rising from the ashes. Her laugh was hollow. Is this revenge then? For all those years, I made you feel unwelcome? This is justice. For Patricia. For everyone whose lives you and Grant destroyed. I leaned forward, but mostly it's for Avery. So she never learns to become like you. You've taken everything from me, she whispered.
No.
You did that yourself. Every time you chose power over integrity. Every time you taught Grant that money matters more than morality. My phone buzzed again, a news alert about Grant's arrest. Miriam saw it too. He'll hate you for this, she said. Maybe. But Avery will be proud. Eventually. And what about me? For the first time, I saw real tears in her eyes. What happens to me? I pulled out an envelope. That's up to you. Option 1. Confess. Help the FBI unravel Phoenix Initiative. Maybe get leniency. And option 2.
Run.
Take what's left of your hidden accounts. Yes, I found those too, and disappear. Never contact us again. She stood slowly, straightening her jacket out of habit. You really think it's that simple?
No.
But I think it's necessary. I moved to the door. You have until morning to decide. After that, the FBI gets everything. You know what the difference is between us, Lila? She paused at the doorway. I would have burned it all down out of spite. You did it out of love. Goodbye, Miriam. After she left, I finally replied to Theo. It's done. How's Avery? Drawing pictures of her brave mom. You coming home soon? I looked at the wall of evidence, at the ruins of the perfect family facade we'd maintained for so long. The truth had cost us everything, but it had also set us free. Yes, I texted back. We're going home. My phone lit up with another news alert. Financial empire crumbles. Phoenix Initiative executives begin to talk. I started packing up the evidence. Let them talk. Let them point fingers and make deals. We were already rising from these ashes, stronger than before. This time, without the lies. 6 months later, I stood in our new apartment's living room, watching Avery arrange her art supplies on her dedicated desk. The space was smaller than our old house, but somehow it felt bigger, maybe because it wasn't filled with lies. Mom, look. Avery held up her latest drawing. It's us at the park. I crossed the room to examine her work. The stick figures were smiling, holding hands beneath a yellow sun. No mansions, no perfect facades, just joy captured in crayon strokes.
The doorbell rang.
Theo stood outside with a newspaper. Thought you might want to see this. The headline read, Phoenix Initiative Masterminds Plead Guilty. Below is a photo of Grant being led into court, Miriam notably absent from his side. Have you heard from her? Theo asked quietly. I shook my head. After our motel confrontation, Miriam had chosen option 2, disappearance. Sometimes postcards arrived for Avery from different cities, always unsigned but unmistakably in Miriam's elegant hand. The prosecutor called. I said, setting aside the paper. They want me to speak at Grant's sentencing next week. Are you going to? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. The text contained only an address and time, signed M. Mom, Avery called from her desk. Can we hang this up? She held up another drawing, this one showing 3 figures. The smallest wore a crown of stars, while the other 2 stood apart, their stick figure hands reaching toward each other, but not quite touching. Of course, sweetie. I took the drawing, recognizing what she'd captured. Is this about the visit tomorrow? Avery nodded. Tomorrow would be her first supervised visit with Grant since his arrest. She'd insisted on it, showing a wisdom beyond her years about forgiveness and consequences. You don't have to go, I reminded her. I know. She picked up a fresh sheet of paper. But he's still my dad, even if he made bad choices. I hung her drawing next to others on our gallery wall, a collection of moments captured through a child's eyes. Our new home. The day we adopted a rescue cat. Theo teaching her to make tamales. The sentencing hearing. I said to Theo, I'm not going. You sure? After everything he did.
Exactly. He did it.
And now he's facing the consequences. I gestured to our apartment, to Avery's art corner, to the life we'd built from the ashes of the old one. We don't need to watch him burn. My phone buzzed again, another text from Miriam's number. I'm proud of you both. I deleted it without responding. Some phoenixes rise alone. That evening, after Avery was asleep, I sat at her art desk and picked up a pencil. I hadn't drawn since college, since before I'd met Grant and gotten caught up in his perfect life illusion. The shapes came slowly at first, then faster as muscle memory returned. I drew our old house, but not as it had been. Instead, I drew it consumed by flames, with two figures walking away, not in defeat, but in triumph. Behind them, a new sun rose, its rays touching everything with gold. Theo had asked me once if I regretted not taking revenge when I had the chance. If letting justice take its course instead of burning everything down had felt like surrender. Looking at my drawing, at the home we'd built, at the daughter who was learning that strength comes in many forms, I knew the answer. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying what hurt you, but in building something beautiful from its ruins. I added one final touch to the drawing, a small phoenix rising above the flames, its wings spread wide and free. Tomorrow, Avery would face her father. Next week, Miriam might step out of the shadows. Next month, who knew what challenges we'd face? But we'd face them together, on our terms, in our truth. And that was the most perfect life of all.